Welcome to this video about the ETC lists for Dread Elves for 2023. So Dread Elves were quite popular at ETC. They've seen a huge drop in popularity, mostly because Sylvan Elves, I think, have gotten a bit more popular. Sylvan Elves have gotten a bit less pricey, Dread Elves have gotten a bit more pricey. Generally, you don't need that many Elven armies at ETC, or at least it's quite rare to feature all three of the different Elf army books in one team. So then it's quite easy to look at the other side and then cross over to a different book. And I think that is why we ended up with a lot of Sylvan Elves this year and not that many Dread Elves. Anyway, I'm still going to be playing Dread Elves. For me, it's quite interesting to see what other players are fielding in terms of Dread Elves. And I would like to go through them together with you to see if our opinions match. So if you have any other opinion, please post it in the comments and let me know why I was wrong. So we start off with Argentina. Argentina is the double Temple Exarch setup, which has been run quite successfully by quite some players. So that features a general Temple Exarch who's an adept on divination in this case. Then an apprentice Temple Exarch BSB on alchemy. However, the BSB gets the Book of Arcane Mastery, so he does get his second spell. Basically, you have one channel for two wizard adepts, and you have to take the number one spell with alchemy in this case. It's not that much of a bad thing. I think maybe I would have switched around the laws to be able to get no enemy all the time and have a bit more flexibility in alchemy, because Word of Iron and Glory of Gold is also quite stable generally, but it also depends on the rest of your army, obviously. He has a Beastmaster Cowboy on a Pegasus. You don't see that many Beastmasters on Pegasi. Most people prefer the Selection Officer, I think, but then even Pegasi, you don't see them that much. They have gotten an upgrade with the Hard Target 1. Is that enough? I don't know. I think Destiny's Call, Pet Weapons, Less Rating Touch. It's a stable build. 405 points for a cowboy like that is not too bad. We'll see how he performs. I mean, he can still get shot, and if he does get shot, then it's still a bit dicey, but then again, a 4 Vegas still protects him at least from a lot of stuff. I think it's an interesting build to see for sure, but you don't really get that much revenue out of the Beastmaster special rules, unfortunately. Still a Warlock Outcast to complement the two Temple Exarchs, just to get a bit more magic. And a Binding Scroll. I think a Binding Scroll, competitively, it's quite necessary in Dread Elves, because there's just a couple of spells that you really don't want to face. Then for core, basically, we have a big block of spears. We have some auxiliaries, we have some corsairs. I'm quite surprised not to see the double auxiliary build, because that happens quite often in Dread Elves. Just because they buff each other quite nicely with Academy Train, they buff the spears. And they're just stable units, whilst the Corsairs, they have less body, they have less range. They do get paired weapons, but is that damage output really worth it? In my opinion, it isn't, but then again, that's why we have other players. And this guy plays the Judicator brick, or at least 23 Judicators. Probably one of the Exarchs gonna go in there, probably the General, because then the unit gets battle focus, and that is quite juicy on Judicators. Flaming Standard to make them come out in decent matchups even more, and coupled with alchemy magic, you quite often get a reroll to it, even though for Judicators that is often not very necessary. Double Raptor Chariots with Lances, a Hunting Chariot, and double Krakens. Currently, I've never felt like Krakens were worth it, so that would be the first thing that I would drop out of this army. Otherwise, his army actually looks quite similar to mine, even though I still have some differences, mostly with regards to the Krakens. Then we have Australia. So the people who know the player know the list. Basically, this player has been running the similar list last year and did really well with Dread Elves. I think it's a list that really needs to be paired against the correct opponents, basically. But then again, double Manticore with a dragon can be quite a solid build, because you have like 1800 points of muscle, combat muscle, that you can just put anywhere on the table with high mobility. The auxiliaries for scoring. The rest of the list basically dances around, tries to do damage as much as it can. There's no magic in this list, which means that you can field the 3 extra units of Thunder back. Or, I mean, if you calculate like 600-700 points of magic for a list, then that's about the extra amount of combat damage that you can put on the table instead. I think it's a cool list. I don't know if, well, I know that I would not play it myself. I think it puts a lot of pressure on the team to give you the pairing that you need, because there is also quite some matchups where this doesn't really shine, I fear. Um, Even though, well, probably the player is also quite good with playing this list by now, at least. So yeah, good luck, and I am very curious if you can achieve the same or better result as the last year. Now we go to Team Belgium. Belgium generally goes for more balanced lists, I find, and this is no exception. So there's a lot of different flavor in this list. I think it's also one of these lists that got optimized quite a bit over the time, so it has some hidden gems probably. The Wizardmaster Cosmology buffs up the Warlock Acolytes quite nicely with some very cheap augment spells. Divination Oracle of Doom, I don't exactly know if there's a special reason to go here for Divination, but it's the same choice as the other player, that basically with Alchemy on the BSB and Divination on the General. Must be a reason for that. I also play sometimes Divination on my Exarch. I don't value Divination as highly in some matchups as I do Alchemy, because Quicksilver Lash is really just a cancel to some builds out there. Then again, with an Apprentice, you also get Quicksilver Lash, so I mean, that is no difference there at all. Yeah, then the rest of the list is the Cateran's Pannon on the Selection Spears to get them to Advance 7 with Swift Stride pretty quickly because of Academy trained in Sand of Blood. Pairs quite nicely with Truth of Time to go to Advance 9 even for just an infantry unit. 40 bodies in Dread Elves is quite rare, so I think that will surprise some people. However, it also enlarges the danger to catapults, to flamethrowers and the like. But then again, the rest of the army is not as vulnerable to that, because it's basically just it. I would say it's quite MSU-ish at the core, because well, the acolyte units, they're not big enough really to soak some damage. I would say they are not minimized size, but 300 points, 8 acolytes. It's not even too bad. Maybe I should also consider them, but I always find with acolytes that either I play them as very small units of 5, and then they kind of disappoint because they don't really do that much, or I play them in bigger units, and then I'm not very impressed. But maybe 8 is the sweet spot where you're basically like a small unit, but you still pack some punch. So maybe I have still a lot to learn from Team Belgium. Then Obsidian Guard, I guess mostly to just reroll Panic in a bubble as well, and to have an extra scoring unit. And then the, I would say, obligatory double hunting chariot, and then some monsters to round up the list. So as I said, quite a balanced list. I think this is a list that a good player can really leverage, and a bad player can also really leverage the other way around. So I know, well, I trust that Team Belgium has a very good Dread Elf player. I know that he's been playing Dread Elves for a long time by now, and I wish him all the best as well. Then the Team Netherlands list. Well, this is my list, so I know it. Yeah, I'm curious what people think. I already know that the opinion on Beastbreakers is that they should be removed from the book and they're really bad and stuff like that. So I'm curious to find out if everybody still thinks so after the ETC. Same goes for the Divine Altar. And otherwise, I'm just playing stable choices, I think. Yeah, I'm not going to spoil any more. Haha. Now we go to Team Scotland. Team Scotland basically has nearly the same Dread Prince build as I have on my Dread Prince on Raptor. On the first Dread Prince on Raptor, I should add here. So I have also included the Ring of the Obsidian Thrones, which I found out to be quite a nice item on the Dread Prince. And this Team Scotland player has opted for Transcendence on the lens instead of Shieldbreaker. I can understand, however, I was more in the mindset of also being able to just put my Dread Prince in front of something, take the charge, and make that a bit of a unique selling point to my Dread Prince. Otherwise, this list is quite thematic, I would say, and it might also work against the correct opponents. You have a lot of Diabraptors, and you have a lot of Dread Knights. So if your opponent packs a counter against Dread Knights, I think this list is not going to like it that much. However, there's also quite some movement in the army, with the Dread Knight starting out at an advance 7, going to advance 8 with Sand of Blood, to 9 with Banner Speed, to advance 10 even with Beast Breakers. Um, and then if you would want to, you can cast Truth of Time on a unit, go to advance 12 with your Knights. That is quite mental, quite a long charge threat. And then again, they are only 27-ish, 26. 26 resilience, 3 wins that make up 1500 points of your army, and then another 1500 points on 9 wounds in characters that are not immune to toxic, that are not immune to alchemy. This is quite scary to me. Like, even if your opponent just plays Avocation, then Touch of the Reaper and Days on the Hour will still do quite a number on your list. Even though I'm just thinking about Touch of the Reaper, it wounds on Discipline, so in the unit of the officer, it wounds on a 4+ instead of a 3+. But I think the list is going to bleed points quite quickly. So I don't know how this is going to do. I would say in my hands, it's not going to do that well. In Team Scotland's hands, this might be an amazing list. Please let me know. Then we go to Team Serbia. Once again, a bit more balanced. Team Serbia basically follows the trend of most of the balanced armies, where you have 3 big combat threats. For me, it's mostly the Beast Breakers, the Obsidian Guard, and the Thunder Pack. For Team Belgium, let's go back. He had the Spears. Yeah, he didn't really follow the format. Maybe I'm just saying random stuff here, but I feel like 3 combat blocks is quite common in Dread Elves generally now, and then the rest to basically support these blocks. We once again see the double Temple Exarch build, so I think that's going to be nerfed even further. But then again, since only 6 armies were taken of Dread Elves, then the rest of the choices are going to be probably buffed. We have a Warlock, Outcast, Wizard Master, and Witchcraft. That's the first one we see. It's a bit of a tough choice, I would say, mostly because if I would play a Wizard Master on Witchcraft, I would put him on a mount that is quite mobile, because a lot of the Wizard Master spells are a bit limited in range, like Will o' the Wisp is only 18 inches range. If you are in your infantry unit with your Wizard Master, it's quite a juicy target for your opponent to hunt down. You have to exert quite a lot of board pressure to make sure that your opponent doesn't just go in and kill your wizard in, for example, your auxiliaries or in your corsairs. Probably it's going to be in the corsairs, but still, I wouldn't really trust it. I would preferably put it on a manticore, probably put a dragon next to it, put another manticore next to it, and end up with something along the lines of the list of Australia, but then with some witchcraft magic. Yeah, otherwise, a big block of spears, big block of obsidian guard, big block of judicators, so every flavor something. It can do quite well. If people know how to deal with Dread Elf infantry, then it's not going to do that well, but we will see. Black cloaks to me are always a bit of a hit or a miss choice, and the reason for that is once you roll for sides, it's basically decided whether your black cloaks are going to be useful in your game or not. Like if you get to deploy first, I find that black cloaks can be quite golden. If you get to deploy second, then usually they end up in a position where they can't really do that much. So yeah, I'm not a fan of black cloaks, but yeah, otherwise the list looks also quite solid. We also have the United States of America joining in the ETC with Red Elves. This is, I would say, one of the most MSU lists out there, with more minimum sized units instead of just big monsters and stuff. Once again, we see a Temple Exarch, Alchemy, Divination, BSB, Blades of Dark Book, Arcane Mastery, Essence of the Free Mind. This is, yeah, it's just a stable build. People have found it in multiple places of the world, I think, and yeah, it just works. The combination Alchemy, Divination, it's quite gold because Alchemy helps against armor, Divination helps against anything without armor. It's um, it's a golden combination. And no enemy is also a bit situational in the sense that sometimes you need the offense, defense, and agility, most importantly. Sometimes you really don't. So then you might as well go for alchemy. Um, and I think it really pays off. Wizard Adept on Witchcraft, Wizard Adept on Evocation, so a little bit different from my list. Silent Assassin, um, yeah, I have an opinion on those, which mostly is that your rank and file strikes nearly as hard as the assassin in Red Elves. So for Vermin Swarm, it makes sense to put in an assassin because your rank and file hits quite often on a 4+, 5+, wounds with strength 3. For Dread Elves, Silent Assassin has strength 4, I believe, so he still wounds effectively at strength 5 because of +1 to wound. And I think his major selling point is AP3, but then again, like a rank or file Obsidian Guard also does 2 attacks, strength 4 with +1 to wound with AP2. So the difference is not that big. An Obsidian Guard guy costs 20 points, and an Assassin costs 165. That is a big gap. It's a big gap for 2 extra attacks and for 2 extra or 1 extra AP. I think that would be one of the most pricey magic weapon enchantments you can find in the game. If you could just upgrade one of your Obsidian Guard models to be an assassin, which is effectively what you do, right? So in any unit other than Obsidian Guard, it might be worth it. Are you gonna reveal him in your militants? I don't really think so. But then on the other hand, I have also played with it, and it's also quite nice to just change the board state locally by the inclusion of a silent assassin. Dread Knights with lances, they can really pack a punch on the charge, but yeah, they still resilience 3, 2+ armor. And then the double Raptor Chariot, double Hunting Chariot. I'm not the only one who was quite impressed by those, apparently. And I think that is going to take us to the end. Yes, to the end of the lists. Yeah, what do you think about the lists? Which one is your favorite? Please let me know. I'm quite curious who's going to end up with the most points. I think if Australia had pairs up its army again in the same way as it did last year, and it really enables it to score the big points, then this is going to be definitely the top dog. On the other hand, the question is also which of these lists supplement the entire team as much as it can, because it's still a team tournament. So some of these lists are, I would say, maybe better suited for a singles event. But then again, who am I to judge? Basically, we're in there all together to just play some games, have some fun. I'm looking forward to seeing you guys at ETC, and I'm also looking forward to playing games against you that I'm going to be paired up against.